Guys, what is going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, I've just seen a fight between Ritson and Vasquez. And I just saw a decision being read out. And I feel sick to my stomach because it was an absolute disgrace. Right? I've said this, I don't know, must have said this 1,000 times after boxing fights that just be fair. Just be fair. There's a guy that's come from Mexico. He's 33 years of age, former world champion. He's at the end of the road. He's at the end of his career. Very good fighter in his day. And he's come to get his career back on track. Right? He comes over here to the UK in this pandemic, to put on a good show, put on a good fight. He comes here and he totally outclasses the home man, the guy that's the home fighter. Totally outclasses him, right? And then at the end of the fight doesn't go his way. It goes to the home fighter. Now, everybody watching the fight, and I want to give credit to Matthew Macklin, Tony Bellew, and all those guys, because these are guys that get a lot of stick. They get a lot of shit. Let's be honest. All of these guys get a lot of shit for being very biased. And they were very fair with their comments during commentary and after post-fight analysis. They weren't all of a sudden, oh, Ritson's got the decision, so let's pipe down a little bit. No, they said we were flabbergasted with his decision. We don't know how he's got this win. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace how the judges have given it. Like, how can you call that incompetence when everybody else has him losing the fight, but the judges somehow, or two of the judges, have him winning the fight? Like, what were they watching? They must have been watching highlights of a completely different fight, or they must have been watching a completely different fight. They couldn't have been watching the one that I was watching, or the one that Matthew Macklin or Tony Bellew or anyone else, or all the other fans that were watching. Because the man was totally outboxed. He was totally outclassed. How did you have him winning that fight? I don't. You can't even make a case for him winning close. It wasn't a close fight. It was a 118-110 scorecard. Matthew Macklin's scorecard was basically perfect. It was basically 100% to the T. He had it bang on. It wasn't a close fight. It was a one-sided fight in Miguel Vasquez's favor. But yet, he lost the fight. One judge had him losing the fight by 6 rounds. 6 points or 6 rounds. Like, it's a disgrace. And how many times are we going to keep getting disgraceful decisions like this? Eddie Hearn, who's the promoter of, Lewis Ritson, came out and said he lost the fight. How can the judges be that incompetent that they're giving the fight? And I'm going to say 2 of them because one of them gave it to Vasquez. But how can you be so incompetent? How can you be so incompetent? That's a robbery. That's what you call a proper robbery. That's a proper robbery. That wasn't close. Fair enough if it's a close fight. This is a Bradley Pacquiao sort of fight. This is a robbery of the highest order. And Miguel Vasquez is going to be forgotten about. He's at the end of his career. He isn't going to say much. He's just going to sail off into the sunset. But he's been shafted good and proper. And it happens in boxing time and time and time again. Why don't the authorities sit down with these judges and say, listen, everybody had these guys losing the fight. I understand boxing subjective, but please explain how you saw Ritson winning that fight. Sit down with them round by round and ask them, how the hell did you have that guy winning this fight? Because it's a disgrace. It wasn't close. It wasn't a close fight. It was a total dominant performance by Vasquez. It was one-sided. You don't get points for just coming forward and showing aggression. You have to land punches. This is boxing. You have to land a punch. He wasn't landing anything. He was barely landing. He was aggressive. Yes, he was walking at him. He was the one that was coming. And Vasquez, he said at the end, Ritson said, pity pats. Yeah, but he's landing more punches. He's outboxing you. He's boxing and moving from side to side. He's punching you and moving side to side. You're not hardly landing. It's a joke. It's a joke. And sometimes boxing is a joke. But what can you do? Well, what can you do? You know, you're gonna get more decisions like this in the future. It's not gonna be the last. You're gonna get more decisions like this. Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke because there's no way anyone, I don't care if you're a Ritson fan or if you're whoever you support, there's no way you can say Ritson won that fight. There's no way you can say Ritson won that fight. It wasn't close. You know, Callum Smith v. John Ryder. Fans thought Ryder won that fight. That was a close fight, though. Yes, most people thought Ryder won. You probably nicked it. Yes, I agree, but it was a close fight. This wasn't close. This was one-sided. In Vasquez's favor, one-sided. Look at the commentators at the end. It was a one-sided performance. Oh. It's a joke. It is a joke. And sometimes boxing is a joke. You know, it was a one-sided performance by Vasquez. He put on a great performance. And in terms of Lewis Ritson, I like Lewis Ritson. I think he's a good fighter. He's a tough guy, got a good chin. But he's limited against guys that move. Against boxers that move around from side to side, that give him angles, he has to reset. I think he's very flat-footed. And like I said, I like Lewis Ritson. I think he's a good fighter. I think if you stand and trade with him, I think he's dangerous. I think he's very heavy-handed. He's got a great chin. He can take a punch. But you need, at world level, Miguel Vasquez isn't a guy that you would say at Regis Progress level, at Hooker's level, at Josh Taylor's level. Those guys are a level above, and fair play to Ritson. He said at the end himself that, you know, I'm talking about pro grade, but I'm probably not at that level yet. I need one or two more fights like Vasquez. But I just think Matthew Macklin hit the nail on the head where he said Ritson stylistically can't fight against that fight. He stylistically cannot fight against that style. And at world level, all boxers can box and move. Josh Taylor is a brilliant boxer. Regis Progress is a brilliant boxer. Hooker would completely annihilate Ritson in terms of not knock him out, but just completely outbox him. And everyone else at world level, right, can box. They can box and move. And as soon as we saw Ritson against Patera, he was totally outboxed. And I thought maybe he would have learned from that and he'd come on. Because I really like Ritson. I think he's strong. I think he can punch. I think he's got a good chin. So he's got a lot of things going for him. He's got a lot of good attributes. But he's flat-footed and he can't box against a guy that's a mover. And I don't know how he's got that decision tonight. I felt the decision was a disgrace. I think it was a disgrace. But in terms of Lewis Ritson, I don't know what they're going to do with him. Because personally, I think this guy should get a rematch. But I don't see them taking a rematch because I think even if he fights him again, the chances are he's going to get done like he got done again tonight. So I don't see them taking that fight again. It doesn't make sense. Stylistically, he's all wrong for him. So they were talking about Prograis. Maybe they've just got to throw him in. Maybe they've got to throw, because where do they go? Because Ritson's fringe world level, whatever you want to call it. What's he going to do? Is he going to fight someone else like Vasquez, fight a rematch and potentially lose? Or he might as well just take a gamble, fight a Prograis. And maybe, who knows? He's strong, he can punch, he's got a good chin. Maybe he might be able to dog him out. But I don't see it. I think those guys at world level, boxing ability be too much for him. Just because I think Lewis Ritson, he's stuck in the mud. He's got flat feet, flat-footed. And unfortunately, at world level, that's a massive weakness. And like I said, I think Lewis Ritson's got a lot going for him. I think he's got iron cast will. He keeps coming. He can punch. I'm not sure if he's a big puncher at a world level, but he can definitely get your respect and get your attention. He's got a great chin. He's got a great engine. He can keep coming all night. But unfortunately, he has got a weakness where if there's a boxer and a mover that can move from side to side, he's just a bit too slow. Matthew Macklin highlighted that on commentary, and I think Matthew Macklin's got a lot of stick over the last couple of weeks about his commentary and about how biased he is or whatever, But I think he hit the nail on the head today. I think everything he said in commentary was bang on. I think his scorecard was bang on. So I think he should get credit because I think he was as fair as he could be. He clearly stated that Ritson lost the fight. He had the fight one-sided like it was. He had the scorecard one-sided like it was. But unfortunately, the judges didn't give him the decision. And it was a disgraceful decision. And I just think these decisions need to be eradicated from the sport. I think the judges should be accountable for poor decisions, just like every other job in the world. Why is it that these guys can get away with poor, disgraceful decisions, and be allowed to referee in the next fight? Surely there should be some kind of action for poor performances. That was a poor performance. That was if everybody watching it had Ritson losing that fight, you can only come to the conclusion that these judges are influenced by hometown fighters. They're influenced by the hometown fighter and the fact that he's favored to win, and the fact that he's potentially the more lucrative fighter. He's the more politically connected fighter, and that's why they're making the decisions they're making. So they've kind of already got their mind made up before even watching the fight, how they're actually going to score the fight. So they're looking to give Ritson a round rather than actually scoring the fight how it is. And that's the problem with a lot of fighters that are politically connected. You could probably say with Canelo, like they're looking to give Canelo the round rather than actually scoring the fight how it is, because they know that Canelo's the politically connected fighter. And I think the same thing happened tonight with Ritson. They were just looking to give him the round rather than actually scoring the fight how it should have been scored. And I just think it's a disgrace. And I feel for the fighters that lose a fight like this, like Vasquez. Like, I feel for him because he deserved that win and he didn't get the win. This game is too hard to be unfair on somebody. Just be fair. Just call it as you see it. How can someone be so incompetent when there's a one-sided decision? I understand boxing's subjective, but it's a one-sided fight. It's a one-sided fight. It's not a close fight. It's a one-sided fight, and you're giving the other guy the decision. That, to me, is not incompetence. That's corruption. That's corruption. And what I mean by corruption is the fact that they're influenced by the politically more connected fighter. Their decision making is influenced by the politically more connected fighter. They're looking to give him a round rather than scoring the fight how it is. And that's the problem with boxing. That's why we get these horrible decisions. The fight before, when Ashfaq was fighting Leach, why wasn't there Ashfaq was the favored fighter. Why didn't Ashfaq get the decision over Leach? Because that fight and Ashfaq isn't a huge star or isn't a politically more connected. I'm not saying Ritson's a massive star, but they see he's politically more connected fighter. There's Ritson is going to world level, right? And a loss would hinder that. A loss would set him back, right? Kes Ashfaq, he's not a world level fighter, or he's going to world level. He's about to fight for a world title. He's not at that level, so he can come back. So they're just scoring the fight how they see it. With Ritson, it's kind of like they're influenced. They're trying to just give Ritson the round, just because they want they want him to win. Basically, they want him to win. So they're influenced every time Ritson probably scores a jab. They're giving him the round by a couple of jabs rather than looking at what Vasquez is doing. You know, they feel that Ritson's one punch is more than what Vasquez's 6-7 punches are. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You know, if Ritson was landing a couple of shots, you know, a couple of hard, clean shots, you know, where he was, you know, but Vasquez was outworking him massively. It wasn't close. It wasn't close. Every round was virtually like that. You could hardly give Ritson many rounds. But yet they've given him more rounds than Vasquez, 2 of them. You know, it's a joke. It's a joke. And I think, you know, until there's something done, until, you know, you sit down with judges and start questioning their decisions, it's just going to continue. You're going to get more robberies. You're going to get more, because with boxing, like I said, the politically connected fighter will always get the decision. You just think about it in boxing. Why is it that the politically connected fighter always gets the close decisions? It can't always be a coincidence. When do you ever see the guy that's not the politically connected fighter get the decisions? Close ones. Like John Ryder, Callum Smith, it was close. How come Callum Smith got the decision but John Ryder didn't get the decision? It was a close fight, but yet the politically connected fighter got the decision. You know, it's just, it kind of, I know promoters like Eddie Hearn come out and say, well, it's not corruption, but how can it always, it's not a coincidence that always the politically connected fighter is going to get the decisions. And then for Eddie Hearn, I saw him in an interview say, well, you know how it's going to be when you're fighting Canelo. Well, that's not how it should be. That's not fair. That's not an even playing field. When you're going into a fight, it's like when you're playing football, it's an even playing field. Yeah, the decisions, sometimes big teams get favoured, but it's still an even playing field. Smaller teams can beat the bigger sides. But in boxing, chances are the top fighters are always going to go 12 rounds, right? It's very difficult to knock top fighters out, right? You're never gonna get the decision unless you completely annihilate the guy where you're dropping him 5-6 times in the fight and it's blatant. Otherwise, you could totally outbox the guy and not get the decision. You know, it's just nonsense. You know, I don't want to carry on going on my rant, but he lost that fight, you know, and it is what it is. It is what it is. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know who you thought won the fight. Leave your comments in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.